Hello and welcome to the second and final module on bonds. And in the first topic, we're going to be looking at basic interest rate concepts. So we're going to look at simple interest. And very simply, simple interest is interest that doesn't include or doesn't consider compounding. And compounding is when you add interest on top of interest. So simple interest is basically when you don't do that, okay? So let's look at an example. So let's take the period of a year, which is 365 days. And let's say you wanted to invest some money for 3 months out of the year. What would be the simple interest that you would earn? So let's say you take 1,000 rands and you invest at 8% interest, and it's 91 days. You take 1,000 times the 8%, but now you're not investing for the entire year. You are investing for a fraction of the year. So you would take 91 divided by 365 to factor in that fraction of the year, and that would give you an amount of 19.95 rands. Whereas compound interest is when you earn interest on interest. So let's look at an example. If you take 100 rand and you look at 10% interest rate, but with compounding, where you're going to be adding 10% on top of the interest that you've earned. So 10% added to 100 is 110. And if you add 10% to that, you get 121. And you add 10% to that, 133, and then add to that another 10%, it's 146, and then in 5 years your 100 rand would have grown to 161 rands, all through compound interest. In fact, some people even refer to compound interest as the 8th wonder of the world. Now let's look at another important concept, which is that of compounding frequency. So now you've been introduced to the concept of compounding, but in a year you can have an increased number of compounding. So compounding doesn't only have to happen once a year, it can happen multiple times throughout the year. So if you look at again a year, 365 days, if you have compounding every 6 months, it means you'll have compounding twice in a year. We call that type of compounding frequency NACS, basically semi-annual compounding. And then you can have even more compounding than that. So if you have compounding every 3 months, so every quarter, that we refer to as NACQ, so that's quarterly compounding. And you can get compounding more than that. So that's basically where you've got compounding every single month, and that is known as NACM, monthly compounding. So let's look at the effect of compounding frequency on 1,000 rands that's invested for 1 year at 10%. So the different frequencies again, you've got compounding annually, that's when compounding happens once a year. You've got semi-annually, NACS, where it's twice a year or every 6 months. You've got quarterly compounding, NACQ, where it's every 3 months. And NACM, which is monthly compounding, so 12 times a year. 1,000 rands for 1 year at different compounding frequency. As you can see, for your annually, it's 1,100, and NACM, monthly compounding, it's 1,105 rands. So what this shows or demonstrates is that as the compounding frequency increases, your investment grows at a faster rate than when you've got lower compounding frequency. So that's another important thing to consider. So if someone tells you that an investment offers you 10% per annum, you need to then ask the question, what is the compounding frequency? Because that makes all the difference. If someone just gives you a rate on its own, it really doesn't have context to it unless you know and understand the compound frequency. Now let's look at another topic or another concept, which is the time value of money. If I had to ask you a question right now, what can you buy for 2 Rand 23 cents? Exactly 2 Rand and 23 cents today. What could you buy? You'd probably be inclined to say a lollipop. Well, let's look at the price of petrol. In June 1999, the price of 1 litre of petrol was actually 2 Rand and 23 cents. But if you look at the price of petrol in 2014, also in June, it was at 13 Rands 79. So if someone had to offer you 2 Rand 23 in 1999, you could buy a litre of petrol. But if someone offered you that same amount of money today, you'd probably just be able to buy a lollipop. So what does that tell us? Something very important, that money today is worth more than money in the future, unless it can earn interest. And that is basically a way to understand the time value of money. And that brings us to the end of this topic. If you need more information or you'd like to go through some worked examples, I encourage you to go onto the website and download the training manual where you can get more detailed information. Thank you.